Great. Welcome everyone to this IES webinar, Augmented Reality and EIA. This is the next evening webinar in our series exploring how professionals involved in environmental impact assessment have adapted their ways of working to the new normal arising from the pandemic. This is an activity that was influenced by our EIA community. Anyone that's interested in learning more about that can please get into contact with me or have a look at our website. Today, we are delighted to be joined by Cameron Orr, Digitalization Manager for Ramboll, and Amanda Chan, Environmental Consultant in Ramboll's Impact Assessment Team. In this webinar, Cameron and Amanda will share how Ramboll use augmented reality in impact assessment projects to enable rapid desk assessments, support public consultation, and improve insight. Thank you for joining, everyone. Just waiting for people. As always, there will be the chance for questions at the end of the presentation. So please do submit these in the Q&A option at the bottom of your screen at any point during the presentation, and I will then ask these on your behalf later on. This webinar is also being recorded and will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. Thank you very much for logging in. It's great to see you all here. And I'll now hand over to Cameron and Amanda. Thank you very much.
Okay, thanks very much for the introduction. Yeah, I'll just take a moment just to explain a little bit more about our roles. So yeah, my name's Cameron Orr and I'm the Digitalization Manager for Environment and Health in the UK. So my team help other departments identify and implement new technologies such as AR. And we also provide specialist digital support to a wide range of projects and work with clients to develop new digitally enabled services. My background is in GIS, and my master's project way back in 2005 looked at using virtual reality for visualizing wind farms. I then went into a consulting role where my time was split between GIS and wind farm visualization, supporting landscape architects and planning consultants. And that allowed me to build up a pretty good understanding of some of their challenges, both on site and in the office. I found this experience really useful when it came to making the business case to invest in this technology back in 2017. So today I'm joined by Amanda Chan, who's on the front line using this technology regularly in our projects. Amanda is an environmental consultant in Ramboll's Impact Assessment Team, and she has experience throughout the UK on a wide range of projects, including renewables, power, transmission, urban development, master planning, and major infrastructure projects. Today, we're going to talk to you a little bit about why we need AR in the first place. What does it do for us? What is the problem that it solves? And then go on to look at some of the functionality that's available in the app that we use called Venice AR. We'll then look at how we use that in the impact assessment process. And then we'll also spend a little bit of time talking about how we use augmented reality in other areas of our work too. And like we said, there'll be time for questions at the end. So augmented reality is really cool, but why do we need it? It's been around since the 90s and has often been viewed as a solution looking for a problem. But for us, understanding what a proposed development is going to look like and how it relates to your current position on site can be really difficult, and typically involves juggling maps, site drawings, GPS, and a notebook. Understanding how a development sits in relation to its surroundings is really important to our landscape team to assess the visual impact of major and often controversial developments such as wind farms and power lines. Before using AR, they would juggle all this field equipment, printed visualizations, and possibly a laptop. They would also be restricted to predefined viewpoint locations, and updating the location of the wireline images requires knowledge of specialist computer software and isn't really practical to do in the field. So the solution for us was replacing all this field equipment with an iPad running an AR application. So the app we use is called Venice AR, and it's made by a development company called TrueView Visuals. It's a tablet application for visualizing built elements in the field. And once it's configured with a digital terrain model and mapping, it uses the tablet's camera, GPS, and 3D gaming capabilities to create an accurate, location-specific, realistic view of the development. So we augment the development into a live view captured on the device camera. And this slide shows what it looks like when it's in use. So you get the most accurate results when you use it on a tripod, but it is possible to get good results by holding the tablet and pointing the camera towards the site. If you know where this is, please don't be alarmed. No one is planning on putting turbines on Salisbury Crags in Edinburgh. For those unfamiliar with Edinburgh, this is a lovely park next to Holyrood Palace and the Parliament. So in theory, it can be used to visualize any development. And it is particularly well suited to visualizing wind farms, transmission lines, and building projects. And some of the examples shown on the slide here come from the developer, but I think we've now used it for all these development types apart from perhaps solar. The platform itself has two main components. There is an online portal which we use to manage the project information, and the iPad which we use to visualize the models on site. And before you go to site, you configure all your information on the portal before you download it onto the iPad. The platform itself comes with several turbine models, transmission line models, and solar panels that you can use. And you upload the coordinates of these to the platform using CSV files, which are simple tables that can be created in Excel. And some of the parameters, such as the turbine dimensions and basic building envelopes, can be defined in these tables. More complex buildings or pylon types can be uploaded to the platform by working with the developer. But I think they are working on a user upload function, which allows you to upload your own 2D models to use in the app. For wind farm projects, you can also upload the turbine positions of cumulative wind farm sites. And the planning status of each of these sites can also be assigned and used to control the visibility and color of the site in the app. You can also define target viewpoints on the portal, and photos captured close to these will be grouped under the viewpoint names in the photo gallery on the iPad and on the portal. The photos, when synced to the portal, can also be managed and stitched together to create panoramas. And then built on the platform as well, it has terrain model for the whole of the UK on a 50-meter grid, the OS Terrain 50 dataset. But you can also upload your own custom terrain models, and you can also use it in other geographies outside the UK. Again, you have to work with a developer for that, but it is possible. So once you've configured all your site information on the portal, the next stage is to download the DTM, the viewpoints, and the 3D models onto the iPad. So now I'll pass on to Amanda, who's going to talk about how we actually use the app for impact assessment projects.
Thanks, Cameron. So before going onto site, you can use the app to test visibility from proposed viewpoints, which helps you plan your site visit better, and in instances have assisted us scoping out requested viewpoints from consultees. The app generates wireline views from any location the user selects on a map, for example, as shown on the top right of the screen. Recently, the app has also added the capability to select locations with Google Street View images, which will be explained in the next slide. As described before by Cam, the app allows you to see a location-specific realistic view of 3D models in the view captured on screen while on site. The examples are on screen showing wind turbines and also OHL towers. This then allows the assessors to compare the position and scale of the proposed development options within the landscape. The development can be visualized from any location, pre-planned or not, which means the assessor can make clear and transparent judgments on the likely landscape and visual effects of a proposed development. The application facilitates efficient selection of suitable viewpoints and detailed viewpoint assessment in the field. Initial photomontage and wireline images can be generated on site for sharing with the project team and use in preliminary reports. We will then go through some of the key functions in more details and how they assist us in various stages throughout the EIA process. So as mentioned just before, the app has recently added a Google Street View capability where Google Street View images can be used as a backdrop. This is only available on major roads, but is a really powerful feature that can be used to generate initial photomontages without going to site. As you can imagine, this has been extremely useful over the past year with the pandemic and allowed us to continue working during lockdown. So once the project's set up, you can go zoom in into the road that you want to see, click onto it. If Google Street View is available, then you can just click on the image pop up, and then that's the Google Street View image in the backdrop. Sometimes the background wire lines might not be fully aligned, but then there are basic editing features available. So you can align, heading, inclination, height, offset. Wireline and model opacity can also be adjusted to show the wireline better or the proposed development better. You can also edit the lighting intensity and choose to show a more realistic model and also a more ambient model. For most of the location where Google Street View is available, a 360-degree view can be used. You just move it left and right to go all the way 360. Another function you can also put is import multiple layouts for each project. The app then allows you to switch quickly between the various layouts. This is a useful function, particularly at the design stage when you have multiple layout options or tip height options, and can help you make an informed decision. It can also assist in the writing of design evolution or mitigation by design chapters and paragraphs. So if multiple layouts are uploaded and made public for a project, they'll show up as options and are available in Overview, Wireline, and Camera View. In this particular video, we're exploring different rotor diameter sizes in Camera View. This is particularly helpful for this video, for example, to show if the turbines are going to break through the wood line with a bigger rotor diameter size. As teams returns to fieldwork, they've continued to use the tool to verify views from potential viewpoints and minimize time on site. Augmented reality improves insight in the field with functions like reference structures and cumulative developments. An area where the topography is relatively flat, doesn't have identifying landform, or where landscape features obscure the form of topography, reference structure helps you align the wireline within the view. As described by Cam before, you can upload cumulative developments onto project. They also add to the organization cumulative database, so if there's another project in close proximity, you won't have to re-upload the same cumulative development again. Once you've uploaded a project, you can then select a radius to include cumulative developments and turn individual developments on or off. You can use it in both wireline and camera mode as shown on the screen. The left-hand side's the wireline, the right-hand side's the camera mode. We've actually compared it with operational turbines while on site, and we found it to be pretty accurate. In order to get a 360-degree view, you'll either have to spin the tablet around on a tripod or have to spin yourself around holding the tablet. So often when I introduce myself to a new starter, I'll say, if you see me spinning on a chair in the office, I promise I'm working, I'm not playing. Another function that improves insight on the site is the trace tool. You can trace an object in front of the development and see what the development looks like if it's been screened. This function allows you to create more accurate output, understand the impact of screening, and informs drafting LVIA. So once you have a project in the camera view, then you can use this trace function and then draw a polygon around the feature that you want to screen. So once you've drawn the polygon, you just have to save trace. You can also create multiple polygons and multiple trace and turn them individually on and off. So on screen, we've just drawn a polygon around the woodland. We've saved trace, turn it off, and then it'll show the proposed development showing up breaking through the woodland instead of what's supposed to be behind the woodland. This is great for screening large solid features like buildings or thick woodland, but then for smaller or more complicated features like trees in winter, we take the image into Photoshop, which has more advanced editing features instead of using the basic editing feature here. AR isn't just useful in the EIA process, but can also be relied on to generate outputs. Ramboll uses augmented reality to produce outputs for consultation and complete residential visual amenity assessment. On this slide, you can find example output for residential visual amenity assessment. Both wirelines on screen are generated from Ventus AR. And on this slide, you can find example wireline output for consultation. Ventus have multiple automation function, which includes generating render, includes photo montage and wireline, and also creating PDF output, as shown on screen. As much of the workflow is automated, this significantly reduces the time it takes to prepare these outputs. If, however, you want more flexibility in the layout, you can simply save the image, make further edits, and create the layout in Photoshop, InDesign, or other software if you're choosing. Not only can you capture images with the Ventus AR app on your tablet, you can also import photography into Ventus online portal to produce UK accepted good practice standard compliant wireline and photo montage visualization. On this slide, please find an example output that we've used to address consultee comments. Photo montage of the before and after layouts were created in Ventus using imported photography taken on professional camera, and outputs were refined in Photoshop and InDesign to clearly show the height profile and comparison. Augmented reality has many potential applications across the impact assessment sector, predominantly as a design visualization tool, helping us achieve better designs and more accurate assessment of impacts. It can also be a great communication and engagement tool for clients and the public, facilitating participation in the design and planning process. Ventus AR allows us to view the proposed development from any location, for example, from somebody's house or a valid viewpoint, which makes it a highly valued tool for public consultation. The app can also be used offline, which is valuable for exhibition where internet connection is unavailable. So I have actually taken Ventus AR app onto public exhibition when face-to-face exhibition were still allowed before COVID. Normally we'll have people coming up to me, tell me their postcode, coordinates, or point to a map of somewhere they want to look at. If it's offline, then I'll be able to show them a wireline view of what it looks like at that location. But if internet connection is available, you can also use the Google Street View function. And if it's a key viewpoint that you've already included photography, you can use the gallery view to show what it looks like with the photo backdrop. We've also often get feedback on that being really interesting and helpful to see what it looks like. During the pandemic, we've used the app to create outputs for virtual exhibitions as well, or setting interactive visualizations that are shared directly with the planning authority to help with discussion about the site. So I'll now pass back onto Cameron to discuss more other AR possibilities.
Okay, thanks, Amanda. So beyond impact assessment, we are also using augmented reality to help with remote site inspections. And we are regularly doing this now for compliance projects where we have a sliding scale of approaches ranging from simple mobile phone apps through to 360 cameras mounted on helmets, AR apps, and HoloLens, which is an augmented reality headset that the user wears. So the video that we've got here shows what the person on site sees, either by holding up the tablet or by wearing the HoloLens glasses. And a group on a Teams call can join this, see the live view, and mark up and annotate the view. So they can highlight features of interest, and these annotations stick to the features that have been marked up, which really helps communication and collaboration. So we currently offer this as a service direct to clients, shipping iPads or the HoloLens directly to their site. And we're also increasingly, our field teams are using this to help with collaboration with people back in the office. And it can be a really useful way for reducing the number of people on site at any one time and bringing in a wider group of technical specialists at the right time. So developing this approach was driven by the pandemic, but I think it's something that we'll continue to use when things get back to normal. I'm not able to share it here, but a colleague, David Cassano, who has been driving our use of HoloLens globally, recently sent me a video of him using HoloLens to visual a BIM model in situ. And it's really exciting to see this, and shows that for some applications, we may move away from using a tablet and switching to using glasses. So yeah, just some closing thoughts. So at the start, I said that AR is often viewed as a solution without a problem. But for us, we've found that these technologies help us to work more efficiently, give us improved insight, and these help us make better decisions. And by using software that gives us the flexibility to go wherever we want, the process of residential visual amenity and EIA is simplified and made more efficient. The ability to quickly generate a graphic representation of a proposed development from sensitive locations allows us to convey impacts to a range of stakeholders, such as developers, other specialists, and landowners, and the general public rapidly and accurately. It's also relatively simple to use and administer. In the main, the consulting teams can get on with using the platform with limited technical support from my team or others. And this has really helped embed it and make it part of our routine way of working. It isn't perfect yet. The iPad location and orientation sensors quite often pick up interference from metal structures and buildings. So it's quite often you find yourself having to lock the sensors to get the best results. And currently there's no way to annotate or manipulate models in the fields unless you've got an internet connection and an office-based colleague is available to help you. There's also limited integration with other platforms such as GIS and BIM. This isn't really a deal breaker, but could certainly help establish emerging applications we see in transport projects, BIM visualization, which I've touched on, health and safety, where we're increasingly gamifying health and safety briefings, and also asset management. So as we come out of the pandemic, and many of us are reconsidering how we split our time between the homes and the office, Microsoft, Google, and others are developing AR solutions that help us collaborate remotely. So who knows, maybe daily use of AR, maybe it's common as Teams in a few years, hopefully without the big glasses. But for now, AR is a technology that we are getting real value from, especially over the last year. We now have several examples where it's enabled us to keep on moving during the pandemic. So that's all from us. We'd like to take any questions that you may have.
Amazing. Thank you, Cameron and Amanda. That was so interesting and really great to kind of see some of it in action so that we can really see how it works. Thank you to all the attendees watching. Please do put any questions in the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. And I've seen that one attendee has asked if there's any links where you can find more information on some of the things talked about today. And I can always share those with them after the event. So I just had a thought. So obviously, one area that the pandemic has caused a lot of change in is the development of these new technologies. And there's been a lot of rhetoric about digital EIA and digital environmental statements. How do you think this kind of technology can integrate with the idea of a digital EIA platform? And do you think it would, I mean, it seems like it would well integrate with that.
Yeah, I suppose it's quite a broad subject, and I suppose it depends how you think about it. I think it's definitely an excellent digital tool to have in our toolkit to enable us to work more efficiently, more effectively. But certainly when it comes to presenting impacts and what development is going to look like to others, and especially the public, I think this technology could have a massive part to play. And actually the first time I saw this technology presented, it was the use case was giving the public access to an app where they could go out and use this app themselves. I'm not sure where that's really gone in the past few years. I think there's definitely technical challenges around doing that, in that we are using this with professional equipment. We understand the limitations of it. And I think if you give it to someone who didn't understand those, then there's a real risk they might just say this doesn't work or it's in the wrong place. So there's challenges there, but it's the future. The sensors are getting better all the time. The technology is getting better all the time. So yeah, I think this could play a really important part going forward.
Definitely. Great. And have clients and the public reacted positively with the use of Ventus AR in public exhibitions? One attendee said that they could imagine it could be very useful for a local resident to help understand what they can and cannot see from their property.
Yeah, I think that's something Amanda's got direct experience of. Amanda, I don't know if you want to answer something.
Yeah, it's definitely been positive. Often when I show them the view, it's not what they've expected, so they find it helpful to see, visualize, be it from their back garden or from their favorite spot. It's also helpful because even if it's offline view, you can only see a wireline, but most of their local public, they'll know like what trees are in front of them, so they can kind of picture it on top of what the wireline view I'm showing them. And also often we discuss cumulative developments, and sometimes with the app, even offline, I can turn cumulative development off and on and see what it looks like with existing view, how it compares. Yeah, so the feedback's generally been really positive. First time I was taken out with a client, even the clients were really positive. So when we had a break where we didn't really have much people coming into the exhibition, I could take the iPad to the right outside the hall and show what it would look like from the hall into the direction of the view. So that's been really interesting.
Yeah, that's really good to hear. It's good to hear that people are interested in. And do you think this is likely to become the norm rather than the exception with some of this type of work?
For projects that we're involved in, and if we're doing the landscape and visual side, it is a more general common practice for us to take it out onto exhibition, and the clients have been liking the idea so far.
And are clients willing to pay more for these services, or do they often need a bit more convincing in this area? Or are there higher cost implications for this kind of project?
I think for us, we've embedded this just into how we work as part of our offer when we do this type of work, both for generating the outputs and for public exhibitions as well. So there's not really a cost that ends up on the project invoice, I'd say, for this. It's just something we use because it helps us do our job.
And one of attendees asked about how this would be really useful for training undergraduate students, for example, in an EIA walkthrough remotely. Do you know if there are examples of this being used in this way or being tried?
I'm not sure. No, I don't know. I can definitely see the use case. And for when we're looking at HoloLens, that's definitely come up where we can see the value there of having people on site who maybe haven't come across something before and are able to dial in a more experienced consultant live and get a live view of the situation. But yeah, for the Ventus app, I'm not aware of us using it for training. Amanda might know differently.
No, I'm not currently aware of it, but we do are training up our graduate that join us to use that on the landscape team. But it depends on the learners. We can definitely see it as a function, especially for more visual learners.
Yeah, definitely with more learning moving online as it has done for the past year or so. And one last question for attendees before we close off. Could photo and video from a drone be used for the visualization process? Do you think there's potential to use this technology for live feeding from a drone?
So you mean capture video or images from a drone and then augment the turbines onto it? Yeah, potentially. I think it's not something that we've done, but I'm aware of other companies that produce video montages, and not just from the road or from head height. I've seen them being produced from drone video. So that there are people who are doing that. It's not something we do internally using drone footage, although we do similar things with virtual reality. And some of the tools there are really high end now, and it's difficult to tell the difference. I think in some cases, if you have the right data. But yeah, I think just now, lots of things like that are possible. It just depends on your budget as well. I think when you get into video montaging and starting to pan up into the sky and get a bird's eye view, that's when it can become, a bit more expensive, but it depends what you want to do. If the budget's there, you can probably do it now.
Definitely. I actually have one last question, if you wouldn't mind. You mentioned, Amanda, at one point that you could use this kind of augmented reality to look through different design options for a project at the design phase. Have you experienced anyone kind of changing the way they were planning to do a project because of how they saw the visualization of it?
That's always on top of the EI process, we start with a design stage that's kind of embedded into the beginning of it. It's kind of inevitable that the design is going to change as you look into the design in more detail. But one, for example, useful instances is you can immediately look at how the turbines stack up from a key viewpoint, and if they're stacking, that's normally not preferred, then you can move the turbine east or west, north or south. There's an instance where we're trying to compare how our proposed development look compared to an existing turbine, and we don't want the existing turbine to break up the development. So that way I can identify which turbine is broken up by the cumulative existing turbine, know which direction to move it. So that's an example that we've used it after we see it and to change it.
So interesting. Well, thank you so much, Amanda and Cameron. We're out of time for today, but that was a really interesting presentation. And as I said, this will be uploaded to our YouTube channel. And thank you to all the attendees for attending. I hope you all found that as beneficial and informative as I did. Don't forget to record your attendance at this webinar on the IES CPD tool. The next IES webinar is actually held later this evening at 6:30 p.m. and that will be on nature-based solutions, the conventions on climate and biodiversity. This is also free to attend and you can register on our website. So thanks once again, and I hope to see you at future webinars. Thank you very much.